One of the most useful lens filters for filmmaking is the variable ND filter for getting cinematic video outdoors. And Haida just sent me this variable ND plus polarizer in one filter. So let's see how this thing can improve your videos. Hey everyone, Cam here, helping you to make good videos. And when it comes to making cinematic videos, being able to control your aperture and shutter speed is very important, but is also quite difficult to do when you're shooting in the daytime outdoors. But this new variable ND filter from Haida helps you do that and then some because it has a polarizer built in. And I have Amazon and B&H links to this filter linked in the description, so if you decide to purchase one through those links, it won't cost you any extra, but it will greatly help out the channel. So let's take a look at how the variable ND filter will help you to get that cinematic look when shooting outside, as well as some situations where that circular polarizer will come in handy. We're outside, middle of the day, ISO is at 80, that's the lowest I can get on this camera, f2.8 on the aperture, and shutter speed is 1/50th of a second based on the 180-degree shutter rule. And as you can see here, it's way overexposed, this isn't working, but now we're still at ISO of 80, 1/50th of a second on the shutter speed, but now the aperture is at f16. So you can see it looks just fine now. Exposure's good, everyone looks good. But the problem with this is that I want to isolate my subjects more from the background. I want that more shallow depth of field that I could get in the f2.8 to f5.6 range. And we're at f16, that's very limiting. So in order to fix that, we can now change it to where we're at f2.8, once again 80 on the ISO, but now I'm at 1/1600th of a second. And you can see we have that more shallow depth of field here, so I got that more cinematic look that I want. But when you change the shutter speed like this for video, that has a huge effect on the motion blur of the images. At the 1/1600th of a second, you can see it's really choppy looking, it doesn't look that natural, whereas next to it, when we have it set properly at 1/50th of a second, you have that natural motion blur that you're used to seeing in films. So basically you have to compromise either the depth of field by having a much deeper depth of field and not being able to separate your subject from the background with that blurry background look that you'll probably want, or you'll have to compromise the shutter speed and change the motion blur so that it doesn't look natural, similar to what you get from like a smartphone video. So I had to decrease the exposure by 5 stops of light in order to get the proper exposure for the image. And the Haida filter gives you the option from 3 to 7 stops of light, which worked great in this case. And if you don't know what I mean by stops of light, I have another video explaining all of this that can help you out there. And this is where this filter comes in really handy, because with it, now we can set the ISO to 80, the aperture to f2.8 to get that shallow depth of field with this lens, and keep the shutter speed at 1/50th of a second. Now I have everything just right to get the image looking just how I want to get that more cinematic look with the natural motion blur as well. So the variable ND filter is a great tool to have to get the most out of your camera and to help you get that cinematic look when shooting in the day outdoors. But it can also help you to get things like long exposure shots that can be used for unique looking time lapses. But aside from the benefits of the variable ND, what is it that this polarizer is going to do for you? Well, polarizers are a great tool for reducing glare or reflections in your shots. Like here with this fish pond, you have all the glare from the lights coming in, but when you turn the polarizer the right amount, now the glare is almost completely eliminated. We can see through into the water and see all the fish swimming around. And reducing the glare on the water is the most obvious part, but also if you look at the leaves, the same thing will happen if you're outside, there's a lot of sunlight on leaves. You turn that polarizer and then the glare gets removed from the leaves instead of all that white. It really brings out the color and makes plants look a lot better as well. And the same thing goes for cars. If you have a glare on the windshield but you want to see through, you can turn the polarizer and then you can see into the window to see your subjects depending on the look you want. And you can also experiment with the angles to get the shot just right with the polarizer to help make the sky look a lot more rich in the blue so that glare coming through from the sun isn't as pronounced. But you should be aware that when using a polarizer facing toward the sun along with using a wide angle lens isn't the best choice because you're not going to get a uniform polarizing effect on the sky. You can see there's almost a bit of an X-polarizing effect on the shot when using a wide angle lens while the sun is in view of the camera. But I wanted to show you this rather than a normal shot so that you'll be aware of the limitations of a polarizer filter. So for the best results when shooting the sky, you want to be at a 90-degree angle to the sun and probably use a lens that's not much wider than 35mm based on a full frame camera. And it's amazing how great the results are from this combination filter that is only $109 for the largest lens filter of 82mm like mine to as low as $78 for the 67mm filter. And if you were to get a Polar Pro variable ND filter, you'd be paying $250 plus another $100 for a polarizer to stack on top of it. And you'd have the inconvenience of having to carry around multiple lens filters and having to stack them, so having this built-in polarizer is a huge benefit in that aspect. And if you have multiple lenses that you want to use the filter with, then you can get a Haida filter that fits your largest lens and simply get a step-down ring kit in order to be able to use the filter with all of your lenses. But if you have any questions about this filter, post them down in the comments and I'll try to help you out there. Again, I have links to the filter as well as a step-down ring kit in the description, so be sure that you get the correct size for your lens based on what you would find. It's going to be listed on the front of the lens. Like this one here is 72 millimeters, so be sure to get the right one for your biggest lens. Step down ring kit for the rest of them. But please hit that like button if this video is helpful, and I will see you in the next one.